My name is Dan Daly, and today I'm speaking to you as a proud and concerned veteran. My full-time business is consulting and education for senior executives. In our business, whenever possible, we try to avoid any discussion of politics. Today, I would like to comment briefly on an issue that does have political ramifications, and they are directly related to national security. National security is an issue that impacts most business operations as well as all of our workforces. The specific topic is veterans and how they are being handled by presidential candidate, former President Donald Trump. All of us should keep in mind that without our military and without our veterans, there is no national security. In terms of my qualifications to discuss these veteran issues, I volunteered for U.S. Navy swiftboat duty in Vietnam in 1967 and 1968. My crew and I served honorably for 12 months and conducted approximately 130 combat patrols along the coast and rivers of the northern part of South Vietnam. Our mission, along with others, was to prevent the transport south of weapons and troops from China and North Vietnam. Although it received very little media coverage, the mission was successful. The result was that the North Vietnamese were forced to build, utilize, and maintain the demanding and inefficient Ho Chi Minh Trail. My crew and I were proud of our service then, and we are proud of our service today. Over the years, I have maintained my relationship with veterans. I was honored to serve as chairman of the board for 10 years of the New England Center and Home for Veterans. Working with a great team of men and women, along with very competent leadership, the center has evolved into one of America's largest and finest providers of veteran services. This includes rehabilitation, housing, life skills, and job training. We're very proud of the men and women and what they all accomplished together. Returning to the primary purpose of this video, I have significant concerns, as do many veterans, about former President Trump and his treatment, understanding, and respect for our veterans. This concern is directly related to our country's national security. Let me be specific and discuss three public and very significant instances that led to our conclusions. The first, when he was first campaigning in July of 2015, then Donald Trump was discussing Senator John McCain. John McCain was a former Navy pilot who was shot down and captured by the North Vietnamese. Subsequently, Lieutenant John McCain spent 5.5 years as a prisoner of war in that notorious hellhole, Hanoi Hilton. I spent 5 days in survival school and could not believe how brutal it was. John McCain, in contrast, spent 5.5 years enduring the real thing. Few people know that John McCain's father at that time was Commander-in-Chief Pacific Forces. What that meant that a simple phone call would probably have gotten his son released, and the North Vietnamese would have had a very attractive basis for a PR campaign. This did not take place. Instead, Lieutenant John McCain chose to remain for additional time in that prisoner of war hellhole until 1973. Again, a period of 5.5 years. Discussing the subject, then candidate Trump made a remark, and I quote, referring to John McCain, "He was a war hero because he got captured. I like people who weren't captured," close quote. This is an unbelievably callous remark for someone who at the time was campaigning to be President of the United States and our Commander-in-Chief. Donald Trump had never served in the military and had benefited from multiple military deferments and made that quote. The second instance was at a recent reference that took place at one of his New Jersey golf clubs. At the time, he discussed when he presented the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Miriam Adelson, a philanthropist and strong supporter of the president. According to the New York Times story, which was carried also by electronic media, he compared it, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to the military's highest honor, the Congressional Medal of Honor. At the event, President Trump said, and again I quote, "It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit by so many bullets or they're dead," close quote. This took place all the while he was standing in front of 6 American flags. Former President Trump further added that the honors were basically rated equal. Taking nothing away from the recipients of the Medal of Freedom, they are exceptional individuals whose contribution in unique ways has helped to make America a better place. However, they were not heroes. They did not risk their lives for their fellow veterans while in the service of our country. I personally know two Massachusetts Medal of Honor recipients, Tom Hudner, a Navy pilot, and Tom Kelly, a brown water sailor like myself. Both these men put their lives at risk to save the life of a fellow veteran or their fellow veterans. These men are heroes, plain and simple. It is my honor to call them friend. My third comment is related to national security, which in turn is related to our economy and frankly the well-being of our citizens. There are three gentlemen who worked directly for former President Trump. John Kelly, a four-star Marine Corps general, was his chief of staff, the man who controlled the door to the office. Jim Mattis was his Secretary of Defense and a four-star Marine Corps general. General Mark Milley was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and a four-star Army general. As a group, these men had ongoing and significant access to the president. In their prior military careers, they managed thousands of troops and billions of dollars worth of equipment. They became the primary and most senior advisors to President Trump on matters regarding the military as well as national security. After their departure, in many cases, they have been the targets of insults and derision by their former employer, former President Donald Trump. Each of them has stated publicly that he will not be supporting former President Trump for re-election. They do not feel he is qualified and fit to be, quote, Commander-in-Chief, unquote, and lead our troops, men and women, in these demanding times. For a moment, let's put this in a business context, not political. If you were looking for a new president for your company, and you talked to three individuals that were his most senior direct reports, and they recommended not hiring that person, what would be your decision? In 2014, neither candidate, President Trump nor Vice President Harris, has had any military experience, let alone combat experience. The threats today to our country are real. They include Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and others. These are demanding times, and we should remember that freedom is never free. There is tragic combat taking place in the Middle East and the Ukraine, as well as around the world in Africa, South America, and other smaller yet significant hotspots. The Commander-in-Chief of the United States is the one who will make the final decision relative to our level of military involvement and commitment. He or she will decide whether we will provide support or whether we will send troops. These troops may well include your spouse, your son, your daughter, or your granddaughter and grandson. It is that simple. It is the Commander-in-Chief who makes the decision relative to where this country goes and will we go in harm's way. Do you want someone who respects our veterans, understands the risks involved, and someone who will take the advice and counsel of experienced military leaders? Your vote on November 5th is yours and yours alone. Cast it wisely. It should not be based on personality, not based on gossip, but based on the candidate's demonstrated strength of leadership, their depth of character, their moral fortitude, and their love of country, our country. To all veterans past and present, I say thank you for your service. To my fellow Vietnam veterans, I say welcome home. I thank you for your attention, and if appropriate, feel free to pass this on. Thank you again.